happened to be sheltering in a barn not far away. The thunder was so loud that it woke him out of his sleep with a jump. At first he thought it was cannon fire, and he sat up, terrified, with his eyes wide open. He could think of nothing worse than soldiers and guns. If it weren't for the soldiers, he'd still have a family and a home and a bed to sleep in. But as he sat there, with his heart thumping, he heard the downpour of the rain on the roof and realized that the bang had only been thunder and not gunfire. He gave a sigh of relief and lay down again, shivering and sneezing and turning over and over in the hay, trying to get warm, until finally he fell asleep. By the morning, the storm had cleared away and the sky was a bright, cold blue. Jack woke up again, feeling colder than ever, and hungry, too. But he knew how to look for food, and before long he'd gathered up some grains of wheat, and a couple of turnip tops, and a limp carrot, and he sat down in the doorway of the barn in the sunlight to eat them. Could be worse, he said to himself. He ate very slowly to make it last, and then he just sat there, getting warm. Someone would come along soon to chase him away, but for the moment he was safe. Then he heard a voice calling from across the fields. Jack was curious, so he stood up and shaded his eyes to look. The shouting came from somewhere in the field beyond the road, and since he had nothing else to do, he stood up and walked along toward it. The shouts came from a scarecrow in the middle of the muddiest field in sight, and he was waving his arms wildly and yelling at the top of his voice and leaning over at a crazy angle. "Help!" he was shouting. "Come and help me!" "I think I'm going mad," said Jack to himself. "Still, look at that poor old thing. I'll go and help him anyway. He looks madder than I feel." So he stepped onto the muddy field and struggled out to the middle where the scarecrow was waiting. To tell the truth, Jack felt a little nervous, because it isn't every day you find a scarecrow talking to you. "Now, tell me, young man," said the scarecrow, as soon as Jack was close enough to hear, "are there any birds around? Any crows, for example? I can't see behind me. Are they hiding?" His voice was rich and sonorous. His head was made of a great knobbly turnip with a broad crack for a mouth and a long thin sprout for a nose and two bright little stones for eyes. He had a tattered straw hat, now badly singed, a soggy woolen scarf, and an old tweed jacket full of holes, and his rake-handle arms had gloves stuffed with straw on the ends of them, one glove leather and the other wool. He also had a pair of threadbare trousers, but since he only had one leg, the empty trouser leg trailed down beside him. Everything was the color of mud. Jack scratched his head and looked all around. "No," he said, "no crows anywhere. No birds at all." "That's a good job done," said the scarecrow. "Now, I want to move on, but I need another leg. If you go and find me a leg, I shall be very obliged. Just like this one, only the opposite," he added, lifting his trouser leg daintily to show a stout stick set firmly in the earth. "All right," said Jack. "I can do that." So he set off toward the wood at the edge of the field and clambered through the undergrowth looking for the right sort of stick. He found one before long and took it back to the scarecrow. "Let me see," said the scarecrow. "Hold it up beside me. That's it. Now, slide it up inside the leg of my trousers." The end of the stick was broken and splintered, and it wasn't easy to push it up the soggy, muddy trouser leg, but Jack finally got it all the way up, and then he jumped, because he felt it twitch in his hand. He let go, and the new leg swung itself down beside the other. But as soon as the scarecrow tried to move, the new foot became stuck, just like the first one. The harder he struggled, the deeper he sank. Finally he stopped and looked at Jack. It was astonishing how much expression he could manage with his gash mouth and stone eyes. "Young man," he said, "I have a proposition to make. Here you are, an honest and willing youth, and here am I, a scarecrow of enterprise and talent. What would you say if I offered you the position of my personal servant?" "What would my duties be?" said Jack. "To accompany me throughout the world, to fetch and carry, to wash, cook, and attend to my needs. In return, I have nothing to offer but excitement and glory. We might sometimes go hungry, but we shall never want for adventure. Well, my boy, what do you say?" "I'll do it," said Jack. "I've got nothing else to do except starve, and nowhere to live except ditches and empty barns. So I might as well have a job. And thank you, Mr. Scarecrow. I'll take it." The Scarecrow extended his hand, and Jack shook it warmly. "Your first job is to get me out of this mud," said the Scarecrow. So Jack heaved the Scarecrow's 2 legs out of the mud and carried him to the road. He hardly weighed anything at all. "Which way shall we go?" said Jack. They looked both ways. In one direction there was a forest, and in the other there was a line of hills. There was no one in sight. "That way," said the Scarecrow, pointing to the hills. So they set off, with the sun on their backs and the green hills ahead. In a farmhouse not far behind them, a lawyer was explaining something to a farmer. "My name is Ceccarelli," he said, "and I specialize in finding things for my employers, the distinguished and highly respectful Buffaloni Corporation of Bellefontaine." The farmer gasped. He was a stout, red-faced, idle character, and he was afraid of this lean and silky lawyer who was dressed entirely in black. "Oh, the Buffalonis, yes, indeed, Mr. Ceccarelli," he said. "What can I do to help? Anything. Just name it." "It's a small matter," said the lawyer, "but one of sentimental importance to my clients. It concerns a scarecrow. It was made by a distant cousin of the chairman of the corporation, and it seems to have vanished from its place of origin. My client, Mr. Luigi Buffaloni, is a very warm-hearted and family-minded man, and he would like to restore the scarecrow to its original home in memory of his dear cousin who made it." The lawyer looked through some papers, and the farmer ran his finger around the inside of his shirt collar and gulped. "Well, he said faintly. "One might almost think that scarecrows had the power of movement," said Mr. Ceccarelli, smiling in a sinister way. "This fellow has been wandering. I've traced him through several farms already, and now I discover that he made his way to yours." I think I know the scarecrow you mention," said the farmer. I bought him from someone else who didn't need him no more." "Oh, good. May we go and see if he is the right one?" "Well, of course, I'd do anything for the Buffalonis. Important people wouldn't want to upset them, but, well, he's gone." "Gone? Again?" said the lawyer, narrowing his eyes. "I went out this morning to tidy him up a bit, and he wasn't there. Mind you, there was a big storm last night. He might have blown away." "Oh, dear. That is very unfortunate. Mr. Buffaloni takes a dim view of people who do not look after his property. I think I can say that his degree of disappointment will be considerable." The farmer was quaking with alarm. "If I ever hear anything about the scarecrow," he said, "anything at all, I'll report to you at once." "I think that would be very wise," said Mr. Ceccarelli. "Here is my card. Now, show me the field from which the scarecrow vanished." Chapter 2. The Brigands. The Scarecrow and his servant set a good pace as they walked along. On the way they passed a field of cabbages, in the middle of which stood another Scarecrow, but he was a mournful-looking fellow whose arms dropped feebly at his side. "Good day to you, sir," called the Scarecrow, waving to him cheerfully. But the Scarecrow in the field took no notice. "You see," the Scarecrow explained to Jack, "there's a man whose mind is on his job. He's concentrating hard. Quite right." "Nice-looking cabbages," said Jack. He left the cabbages reluctantly and ran to catch up with the Scarecrow, who was striding ahead like a champion. Presently they found the road getting steeper and the fields getting rockier, and finally there were no fields at all, and the road